Welcome to the Trading with Venus podcast, where we help you establish strong trading habits, generate consistent profits, and create the lifestyle you desire for yourself and your family. Now your host, Raman Gill.
Welcome to Trading with Venus podcast episode 8. Today I have the pleasure of welcoming Rob Booker to the show. When I first started trading, Rob's class was one of the first ones that I attended, and he taught me the concept of scaling in and out of a position. Rob is a currency trader. He hosts the Traders podcast on iTunes and is the author of Adventures of a Currency Trader. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us today and share your trading journey with us.
Sure. It's good to be here.
So first of all, we will start off with a little bit about yourself. Can you tell us a bit about yourself so we can get to know you personally?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm not any different than anyone else listening to the podcast that is interested in trading. I'm interested in trading because I like money. I want to make money. And when I first started trading, I didn't think about the money enough. I think I thought about how exciting trading was, and I got really excited about trading and the markets and economic news and price action. And I started about 15 years ago, as of the time that we're listening or talking on the podcast right now, in about the year 2000. And it wasn't until about 2003, 2004 that I was making even close to enough money to replace any kind of income that I could live from. So it took me about 11 months to be profitable as a trader, but it took me longer than that to start making enough money to live off of.
So how did you actually get into trading?
Well, I was in a business. I was in an online internet business together with a friend, and we were terrible business people, and we bankrupted that business. The business just failed. And I was left in the year 2000, 2001 with a significant amount of debt. And I guess I could have gotten a job as an attorney. I went to law school, but I didn't want to be an attorney, and I did want to pay off that debt. And I'm not any different than anybody else. I just didn't want to do the stuff I didn't want to do. Like, I didn't want to be an attorney, and I didn't want to have a dumb job. I didn't want to do anything I didn't want to do. I wanted to have a lot of free time. I mean, these are all, I think that's very similar to a lot of reasons people get involved in the markets. And I called up a friend who lived in San Francisco and who worked for Bear Stearns. And I said, I'm interested in the markets. I've always been interested in the markets. I think I want to try it out. And my friend said, well, the one thing you shouldn't do is trade currency. That's just a complete disaster, and you're never going to make any money with that. It's too much risk. And of course, that's the first thing I did.
Isn't that always the case?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned that it took you about 11 months to get profitable. But was there, can you think of any particular time when you felt like you actually really failed in trading? Tell us how you got to that point, and how did you then overcome that and get past that?
Well, you never really get past that. I think it's an interesting question I'm happy to talk about. But last year, I traded the Russian ruble. I sold the U.S. dollar Russian ruble, and I held on to that trade. It became a $20,000 loss, and I failed. There is a pernicious lie and a myth that gets spread around through the culture of trading and all of these books that we read. And if you read Market Wizards, for example, which is a spectacular book, but if you read it, you're left with this sense that when you make it, you're not making mistakes anymore. Or at least that's the impression that we get when we read those kinds of books. And it's totally a lie that you never stop making mistakes. You never stop having the same types of potential problems that crop up. And the second part of your question, I think, is really the key issue, is how do you come back from that? And I think there's two parts to that answer, and one part is a really unsatisfying answer, and the second part is, I think, a very satisfying answer. The first part is you shouldn't ever lose all of your money. The first rule of trading is don't ever have a catastrophic loss. Reduce your trade size. That's boring. That's sad. That makes us all upset. Reduce your trade size. You're going to do better than you've ever done before, and you're not going to blow up your account. Don't take a big loss. Don't ever do it. Don't get yourself in a position where a modest loss goes out of control. Last year, I was trading that $500,000 account, and I had a $20,000 loss. That was the maximum loss that I could accept in that trading account. It was a huge amount of money, but it was a reasonably okay small percentage of the account, larger than what I would have liked, but I cut it off. I had to cut it off. And I came back from that, and I think it was the next month after I made like $29,000. So I made $9,000 on top of that loss, and I was okay. But if I lost $250,000, it's just irrecoverable. It's heartache on top of pain, on top of frustration, on top of a lack of confidence, on top of I don't trust myself anymore, and whatever else. The second lesson is, I think, more satisfying. And the second thing is how you come back from it. So the first is don't get yourself in a position to lose a ton. But second of it is, even if you do lose a ton, and regardless of what happens to you in trading, you are the answer. The system isn't the answer. Your mentor isn't the answer. A podcast isn't the answer. A book isn't the answer. You are the answer. You are the only person that can be depended upon to make this happen. And you have to have an indomitable spirit, and you have to have made a decision that no matter what happens, you are going to face head on your weaknesses, and you're going to face directly whatever problems that you have, and you are absolutely not going to let anything get in your way. And so if you have a setback, you stop, and you don't just say, okay, I'm going to get right back into it. I didn't make a mistake. You say, I'm an impulsive individual. I made a mistake. I have to build protection around me. And you have to that's what becoming a professional trader is about. It's not about a certain amount of money. You can make $1 a day and be a professional trader if you have decided to face your problems head on and decide that I don't care what happens. I don't care if my broker goes out of business and they take everything. Nothing is going to stop me from facing and overcoming any challenge that comes my way. My reaction when I hit a challenge will be, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to take control of the situation. It might not be my fault, but it is my responsibility to face this. And I watch traders all the time who say, I didn't cause this problem, I don't know what to do, or the system is broken, or my broker keeps slipping my trade. And then I compare that to many traders that I find that say, my broker slipped my trade, I called my broker, I chewed him out. The system seems not to work lately. What I'm going to do is reduce the size of my trade, increase my stop loss, and I'm going to trade my way out of any trouble that comes my way. I'm going to take responsibility for the situation I'm in, but the one thing I will not do is accept defeat. And that's a long answer, but that's where I see people making a lot of progress in their trading, and it's how I did as well, which I just said, I don't care what happens or how long it takes me and how many personal problems I have or what kind of an idiot I am going to make this work. I'm going to make it work. It is in my hands to make this work. And if I have a system that doesn't seem to work, it's not the system's fault. It's my fault, and I have to choose a better way to trade if that's what's happening to me.
Actually, I can totally relate to that. You talk about losing $20,000 on a $500,000 account. I actually lost $20,000 on a $100,000 account.
Yeah.
So it was very embarrassing.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. Yeah, it is embarrassing. What happened after that?
Well, that's when this was back in 2010, and that's when I started on this journey of really learning about the mindset and how not to be impulsive, because I just sat on that trade when I should have just gotten out of it, accepted a small loss and gotten out of it. And then I started learning more about myself and how I needed to manage my own emotions and how I needed to be in control of myself while I'm trading. Very similar to exactly, what you said, essentially going down that path of how do I fix this? I'm going to do this even if it kills me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That type of attitude. Yeah. So in terms of, we talk about consistent profitability in trading, what was your biggest challenge to becoming what we consider consistently profitable? And how did you overcome that?
Well, there's a lot of things, and I'll just choose one. The first one that comes to mind is my desire to make a lot of money in a short period of time, as opposed to compounding small gains over time. And every day I talk to two different kinds of traders. One kind of trader is the trader that says, I don't have time to compound small gains. Teach me something that makes me a lot of money very quickly. And here's what I tell them. Buy the dollar yen on every time it drops and put a really tight stop loss underneath the trade and trade with a giant trade size. You will eventually lose all of your money, or you have like a 1% chance of doubling your account. Have a nice day. I'll see you later. I can't help you. I don't know how to make a lot of money in a short period of time. The second type of trader that I talk to is much more likely to be a lifelong friend of mine. And I say, here's what you want to do. Find an easy trade an easy amount of profit that you know you can make. Can you make $1 a week? And they're like, yeah, I can make $1 a week. And I say, make $1 a week. Go do it. Build your confidence. I'm making $1 a week. Okay, let's increase your trade size. Can you make $2 a week? Yeah, I make $2 a week, $3 a week, $10 a week, $100 a week, until you're making like $100 a day. The problem is that takes like 18 months. But 18 months into it, you're making $100 a day, and you don't really even remember how you got there. It was a natural transition, just like someone practicing the piano every day for 2 years is going to play a lot better at the end of the 2 years. What I realized early on was that my desire to make a lot of money in a short period of time was intervening, and it was the greatest obstacle to me making any amount of money because my trade size was too big. And because my trade size was big, I would have to stop out of my trades really quickly. Well, what do we all do occasionally? We don't stop out of our trades quickly. And as much as you promise you're going to do that, many of us don't do that, or something goes wrong, or the broker slips, or there's news events or whatever. You forget about a trade, or there's a pending order that opens and you didn't remember it, or whatever it is. The smaller the trade size that you have, the less likely that anything's ever going to go wrong. And the minute that I figured that out and embraced it as a concept, it's not just that my trading changed, it's my whole life changed. That you don't throw yourself at somebody that you meet in a bar and marry them. You don't, once again, you don't offer a partnership in a law firm to a person right out of law school. You ease into a process and you add to what's working and you take away from what doesn't work. And you don't risk everything right up front. And the sooner we all learn that lesson, the faster it is that we start to make progress. It's just slow going, and it's very disappointing. It's very disappointing. When I realized I wasn't going to make $150,000 in my first year of trading, no matter how much I wanted to rationalize that it was possible or how positive I was that I had found something that was going to work and was perfect, I was really disappointed. But that was the beginning of all the money that I did eventually make.
You know, it's the same concept of, for example, if you look at doctors, for example, you don't let the brand new doctor operate on someone because you know the chances of that person recovering from that surgery are really, really low.
Yeah.
And yet we do the same in trading. And you're right, most people will come in first year right out of the gate, first few months they want to make a lot of money. And another issue is that small account size as well.
Yeah.
Not only are they looking to make a lot of money, but most traders, and I've done this too. I wanted to start with a really small account size, but then make 4 or 5 times that account, which is almost impossible to do.
Yeah, and I know some people are listening to this, and they're going to say, no, I saw a guy, or I know somebody that did it, or Rob, I even heard that you did it once before, or whatever. And the answer is, it's not. Success isn't dependent on your ability to do one great thing one time, one off. Success is long-term consistency in your results. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer or a disappointment. It is possible to grow a small account into a large amount of money, and it is possible to do that very quickly. The issue is, however, that all traders are not created equal. Some of us are more impulsive and less psychologically stable than others. Me at the bottom, and it's very difficult for me to sustain that kind of performance over the long term. So I would find myself at times when I was more aggressive making 30% in one day or doubling a $1,000 trading account in one day, but then giving it back all over the course of the next week. And those ups and downs are just excruciating, as opposed to every day I make a small amount of money or every week I make a small amount of money. And it's shocking how amazing it is. It's shocking how wonderful life becomes when you're doing that. You're consistent.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun doing that as well, rather than worrying about the ups and downs every day.
Yeah, I don't know. You think it's more fun that way? I think a lot of people don't think that's as fun. I think gambling is more fun.
You know, it is more fun when you're making, let's say, you're talking about, making 30% a day or doubling the account in a day. But what happens the next day? You can't sleep then.
Yeah, zombie trading is terrible. I agree. I think fun, however, can be equated to a release of dopamine into your system. So gambling as a trader releases a lot of dopamine into your system. You take the trade, it's a big trade, and you're waiting for that next candle to come, and you can feel that tension rising. And whether it's a win or a loss, it's like the a card on a gambling table, on a blackjack table being turned over, that moment where the card is being turned over, your brain is releasing a savage amount of dopamine, and that's a very positive chemical that makes you feel like you're an inconquerable spirit. And we seek that high. We get addicted to that release of dopamine. Like literally we get addicted to that release of dopamine. And that's why some traders on Thursday, they've made money for the week. And then on Friday, they go into some kind of trance, fog, psychopathic, weird state of mind. And they don't even realize they're doing it. And the next thing you know, they've given away all of their money that they made over the course of that week. And that is not uncommon. And the reason is because people get addicted to trading, like all the way addicted. So.
I can relate to that too. So I've made my own fair share of mistakes here.
Yeah.
So tell us about an aha moment. And was there any particular time when things actually clicked for you? And how did that then impact your trading journey?
It's a good question. Yeah, that aha moment. Yeah, it's funny. Every single person I've ever talked to, no one had an aha moment that centered around a trading system. None. I've never talked to somebody who said, oh, I found a system and that was my aha moment. For most traders that I know, the aha moment was, I'm never going to let a loss get out of control again. That's one aha moment that you have along the way. And then another one that you would look for is, I'm going to set myself up so that anything that happens in my trading account, I'm sure I can deal with it. And the only way you can really say that is if you reduce your trade size to something so ridiculous that you just feel embarrassed about it. But those were my moments where I just realized, wow, if I reduce my trade size, there's nothing bad that could happen to me. Like, I'm done. This is boring now. And that's when a lot of people walk away from it because they're not going to make a lot of money. But that's the moment where some people they go on a win streak that almost seems impossible to replicate. And it has everything to do with the fact that doesn't have anything to do with your system. You could give a mediocre trading system to someone who understands about taking a small trade on their first trade. And the next thing you know, the trade goes wrong and they don't care. It's like trading a demo account again. And everybody can trade a demo account. I mean, it's depressing, right? It's like, okay, well, when am I going to be able to retire from my job or whatever? It's like, listen, when you start consistently compounding gains one after the other, like that's when. And that might take a year. That might take 2 years.
Yeah, actually, it is the consistency. It's the consistency in making profits, in small profits, that actually leads to those bigger profits, absolutely. And there's no way around that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no way. At least I haven't found a way around that. It's fun to, like you said, it is good to make those huge profits, but then you lose them again. You go around and lose the profits plus some more. Yeah. And that's what just creates that roller coaster, which is at the end of the day, then it's not fun. Especially if you want to turn serious about it,
right.
It's not fun. Can you tell us about a person who has had a tremendous impact on you as a trader? And why did this person have that impact?
Yeah, there's a couple people. They're not traders. I loved the book Market Wizards. No lie. I mean, I love that. I love that book. That's a good question. So there are a couple people, and none of this is really going to make sense to any of you. Some of this is not going to make sense. But one book is Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by, I'm not going to pronounce the name correctly, Shunryo Suzuki, who brought Zen Buddhism to the United States of America. And it's a short book, and it's about the fact that a beginner's mind is open and playful. It's been a huge effect upon me. Another book that had a pretty significant effect on me, Wherever You Go, There You Are, by John Kabat-Zinn. That's probably one of my favorite books of all time. Huge effect upon me. And that book made a big difference in my life because it's about making the best of your situation wherever you are in the moment. It's a collection of essays. Another book that had a huge, huge impact on my life was the book Titan by Ron Chernow. I think the book actually won the Pulitzer Prize for nonfiction. It is the story of the life of John D. Rockefeller Sr., the founder of Standard Oil. And that book is very long, but it's the biography of someone who built one of the world's preeminent businesses, and he did it by being very careful, and he did it over time. He was not an overnight success, and he did not get $1 gazillion and double his money and he had to do an enormous amount of work, and there is no substitute for that. It is probably the best instruction on business that I've ever received in my life came from that book. And the book is about a man who wrote down every expense that he made, who was absolutely obsessive about reducing expenses, which is the same as reducing your losses as a trader, and who was obsessive about accumulation, almost with absolutely no concern for the amount of money that was involved, except for it was a way of keeping score. And the best traders in the world that I know make the most of the situation they're in, face the situation that they're in head on, have a very zen approach. They're not going to become massively emotionally disturbed at losses and massively emotionally euphoric at wins. And so those books about Zen or meditation have been had a huge impact on my life. And then Titan really mattered to me because I read this book, and then I actually met his great-grandson. Rockefeller's great-grandson who was a senator in West Virginia. And this work ethic had been taught down the line in this family, and the ethic was, I don't expect anything to come easily. I expect that I have to cut things off that aren't working really quickly. And success is about compounding gains, whether they're small or large, and growing the account, growing the business. And I watch a lot of traders who are interested in hobby. They're interested in technical analysis. They're interested in news events. They're interested in economics. And none of that stuff matters. You want to be interested in compounding gains and accumulating. You want to be interested in massive accumulation. And you want and everything else takes a back seat. If something is taking away from your income or your compounding, you cut it off. If a person in your life gets in the way, you cut them off. And this savage, ruthless prioritization of accumulation first, and then you realize your trading account or your trading strategy or your guru or your favorite book or whatever, none of that stuff matters. What matters is you wake up one day and you make a decision, and it's like, I am going to compound and accumulate profits, and nothing's going to get in my way. And the next thing you know, it doesn't matter what trading strategy you have. It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. And I watch people all the time. I say this to people, and they say, okay, but what strategy do you recommend that I trade? And I literally just want to scream at the top of my lungs, because it doesn't matter. You can take any strategy off the shelf, and if it goes against you, you cut it off, or you take a really, really, really small trade, you let it go against you, and then you work your way out of trouble, and you compound your gains. You keep closing wins over and over and over again, and you don't let anything take that away. You protect your gains and you protect your wins. And if you can grasp that attitude, you will quickly realize that what instrument you trade, your favorite instrument, your favorite whatever, all that stuff doesn't matter. You just start doing what works.
Absolutely. Now, you talked about work ethic. Is there a particular successful habit that you believe has contributed to your trading success?
Can you say that again?
We just talked about work ethic. Do you believe, is there a successful habit that you believe has contributed to your trading success?
It's what I keep saying. It's don't let a big loss happen. There is nothing more important. There isn't anything that's as important as that. You can almost take anybody off the street, put them in front of a chart, and say, I want you to make money from oil. And they say, well, what's the rule? What's my trading rule? And you say, don't lose money. Don't lose money. Don't lose money. That's it. And they say, well, give me one other rule. Say, close your winners. That's it. Like, stop making it so complex. That's it. That is it. I've watched lazy people, angry people, disturbed people, psychologically unstable people, impulsive people. I've watched all kinds of people straighten out their lives by following those two rules.
Yeah, that's very true. Now, if you had a chance to do your trading journey all over again, knowing all that you know now, what would you do differently?
I don't know. I don't have any regrets. I wouldn't do anything differently. I like exactly the way that it went. All the problems, all the pain, all the heartache, all the whatever. I don't believe that I often have this thought. I look back on my life and I say, wow, if I knew then what I know now. And that's fun to go back and just make up a story about it or whatever. But what's important is, like, what am I going to do now with what I know? what am I going to do now with what I know about my life? That's what I guess what I'm more interested in is knowing what I know now, what am I doing differently? And the answer is I'm just ruthless about making sure that a loss doesn't get out of control. And I'm ruthless about making sure that I'm compounding gains. And I fight my way out of stuff that goes wrong. And I never give up. I don't think I would change anything about the way that I did things in the past. I mean, it's just not possible. So I can't do it. So it's almost sad if I start thinking like that.
Rob, you have given us some really good nuggets here, and you've shared some really deep insights that it takes years, to actually really understand those. So we really appreciate that. Now, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach you?
The best way to reach me is to go to tfl365.com, tfl365.com. And then you can sign up on the homepage to get the daily email. I send an email out every day that's the 5 things you need to know today about the markets. And it's entertaining and kind of informative. And we have about 62,000 people that get that email every day. And you kind of, by doing that, you kind of join a huge worldwide happy family of traders. And, of course, the email is free. So that's a good place to start.
Sounds good. So, Rob, thank you again. Thank you so very much for taking the time to speak with us today and sharing your valuable insights with us. We really, really appreciate that.
Well, thanks for having me. I look forward to having you on my podcast sometime.
Great. Thanks, Rob.
We've been talking to Rob Booker, who shared his trading journey with us and provided some valuable insights on how we can improve our performance as well. For show notes for this episode, please visit tradingwithvenus.com podcast page and look for episode 8. If you liked what you heard, be sure to leave us a positive review on iTunes. This will help the show rankings and allow us to bring more great content to you. Thank you so very much for taking the time to listen to the podcast. I am truly grateful to have you join me. Until next time, this is your show host, Raman Gill, wishing you profitable trading.
If you want consistency in your trading, we invite you to join our daily market analysis calls, where we provide the levels to find the best entries and targets on an intraday basis. For a 1-week free trial, please visit www.tradingwithvenus.com. Thanks for joining us today. With much gratitude, your show host, Raman Gill.